Everybody, it's Mike Kennedy, Vermont Bar Council, with a new feature that I'm going to associate with the blog. So I'm going to call it Morning Grounds. The name of the blog is Ethical Grounds. We'll call this Morning Grounds. It's going to be a video series where I do short videos about professional responsibility and legal ethics. I hope to do them in the morning to take advantage of beautiful mornings in the summer, my favorite time of day in the summer. From here on my deck. This week, I'm going to be going through the answers to last week's 5 for Friday quiz, because one of the questions on the quiz was a visual question. And as I was posting the answers in the traditional blog format a couple days ago, I realized it's tough to have a visual question where you write about the answer. I should have, because it's usually a question I use in person. So I should have, and it's easy to explain in person. I should have explained the answer by video instead of blogging about it, which got me thinking about doing videos, and then led to this whole, wow, it's beautiful this morning, let's do a video on the deck. And that led to the whole Morning Grounds idea. It won't always be, these videos will be short, 5 to 15 minutes tops. And they won't always be about the quiz. They'll be about anything, like I said, that has to do with professional responsibility and legal ethics. And yes, folks, for everybody who sent in something about the artificial intelligence brief that was completely fabricated by artificial intelligence, I am going to blog about that. I might do a video about it. Have not received more emails about a specific story related to legal ethics than this one. I thank everybody who wrote to me. I am going to regret to write about it, share my thoughts. So I'll just jump right in. I'm a little bit late today. It's almost 8:30. I'm going to try to do this a lot earlier because I like the earlier. When it's early, I like it when it's really, really early. And it's quieter really early. There's not as many cars going by and people going to school and to work. But so let's get right in. Oh, but no, the introduction to last week's quiz was about Succession. Don't worry, no spoilers if you haven't seen the finale, but my quick take as I blogged, I think it's going to go down as one of the greatest series finales in television history. For me, I think it's the best. I love the ending to Better Call Saul, but I thought Better Call Saul did a better job wrapping up the whole story over the last couple episodes, where Succession, for a single episode that was the finale, holy smokes. I thought it was great. Okay, let's move on to, what am I looking for here? Oh yeah, share my screen, go through the quiz. It's my neighbor's dog. Probably won't get any right, but maybe he'll bark at appropriate times. Okay, so you already have the new slide out, Morning Grounds. Here was question 1 last week. So if you don't know, the rules of professional conduct are complicated and can be difficult to memorize. So first of all, they're difficult. Some can be difficult just to read, and they can be really difficult to memorize. And I don't think lawyers do themselves a service by trying to memorize the rules. I think it's better to memorize concepts, that if you just keep the concepts in mind, you'll go a long way towards complying with the rules, whether you remember the specific language of every rule or not, which is impossible to do. So I've broken the concepts down into what I call the 7 C's of legal ethics. Each concept is a single word that begins with letter C. And I think if lawyers focus on those concepts, the 7 C's, that goes, like I just said, to the most important C, which is compliance with the rules of professional conduct. So which C, the question that in the blog was, I use this picture at CLEs and presentations to discuss one of the 7 C's. Which one? Give you a second to think about it while I sip my coffee. So I use this picture to get lawyers to think about conflicts of interest. I took this picture in South Hero. It's at, I don't remember the name of the road, but it's a road that tees into South Street. We've been up there. When you get to South Street, you can either go left towards the lake, towards where they have all those colorful birdhouses in the forest there, or right back to Route 2 and, Allen Home Farm and up there. To me, how this signifies conflicts is if competence and diligence are taking me this way, it's the way I should go. If I'm a competent and diligent lawyer, it's the way I should go for my client. But there's anything else, whether it's a duty to a former client, taking me that way, duty to a current client, taking me that way, personal interest of mine, taking me that way, duty to a third person, taking me that way. Anything taking me in a different direction from where competence and diligence are pointing me on behalf of my client, this is probably a conflict of interest. So when you feel that tug, that arrow going the opposite direction or a different direction from where you should be going for your client, it's probably a conflict of interest. When you feel that tug, trust your gut. I say this all the time. Trust that gut instinct. It's probably correct. So this is what I use that picture for. Sneak preview for future quizzes. I also use this. I'm sure many of you know what this relates to is that when you have multiple clients in a single case, sometimes they're really happy up front, but when it comes time to dividing the spoils, not everybody's on the same page. And people who get a smaller piece of the pie than their other co-clients may not be happy with you, but I'll talk about that at a different time. Remember the sign, the arrow, supposed to go this way for my client. Something's pulling me that way. Could be a conflict of interest. Okay, question 2, some math. There's a rule that requires lawyers to keep records of trust account funds for X number of years. There's another rule that suggests that lawyers should provide Y hours of pro bono services per year. What is X plus Y? A, 56, B, 57, C, 66, or D, 67. So I tried to set up I did set up the possible answers. So you had to think, is it 6 years or 7 years that I have to keep my records of trust funds? And is the pro bono rule 50 hours or 60 hours? And the answer is A. So X is 6. That's rule 1.15A1. That's how long you have to keep records of trust account funds. Most people, probably 95% of lawyers, think the answer is to X is 7. It's not, but that's good. That means you're definitely compliant with the rules. It'd be terrible if the rule was 7 and everybody thought it was 6 and people were getting rid of things after 6. That would be bad. And then Y is 50. That's the number of hours that the rule suggests you should provide in the form of pro bono services per year. If you're looking for pro bono opportunities, don't forget to contact Mary Ashcroft, fabulous legal access coordinator for the Vermont Bar Association. Mary has plenty of different pro and low bono opportunities for lawyers to take advantage of. Question 3. A comment to one of the rules indicates that the rule contributes to the proper functioning of the legal system by doing 3 things. The first 2 of those things are protecting against possible overreaching by other lawyers in the matter and preventing interference by those lawyers with the attorney-client relationship. What does the rule prohibit? Is it A, knowingly making a false statement of fact or law to a third person? B, communicating with a represented person on the subject of the representation? C, knowingly making a frivolous discovery request? Or D, ex parte communications with a court? So the rule is meant to accomplish the goals on the left. Which rule is it? All right, the answer is B. The prohibition on communicating with a represented person on the subject of their representation advances the goals on the left. Question 4. Lawyer called with an inquiry. I listened and then responded, and here's my response. There's no rule that specifically prohibits it, but the fee must be reasonable, and you must comply with the rule on business transactions with a client, and you should consider whether it would create a personal interest that would materially limit your ability to provide the client with competent and candid legal advice. Given my response, it's most likely that lawyer called to ask about what? Is it A, a contingent fee, B, representing a family member. C, withdrawing from representing a client so as to start a romantic relationship with the client. Or D, accepting an ownership interest in a client's business as payment for legal fees. So let's go back. Parse my response. Nothing prohibits you from doing so. Your fee, however, must be reasonable. You must also comply on the rule that talks about business transactions with a client, and you should consider whether by doing so, it would create a conflict of interest in that it would materially limit your ability to provide your client with competent and candid legal advice. Would that be a contingent fee? We have to think about all those things. Is it representing a family member? We have to think about all those things. Is it a romantic relationship with a client? We have to think about all those things. Or is it accepting an ownership interest in a client's business as payment for legal fees? We have to think about those things. The answer is D. So obviously it's a video form, so I can't share video format, so I can't share some links with you, but some good articles I have, some good ethics advisory opinions that talk about accepting really, stock as payment for or equity, an equity interest as payment for legal fees. Happens most often representing startups, new businesses. Remember, if you take stock or as a fee, I'm going to get the rule. That's in Rule 1.5, which says fees must be reasonable. A comment to Rule 1.5, I believe it's comment 4. Yep. A lawyer may accept property in payment for services, such as an ownership interest in an enterprise, providing this does not involve acquisition of a proprietary interest in the cause of action or subject matter of the litigation, contrary to Rule 1.8. However, remember, a fee paid in property instead of money is subject to the reasonableness requirement of this rule and will also be subject to Rule 1.8a, which is the rule on business transactions with a client. So that's what I talked about in the question: reasonable fee, business transaction with a client. And remember, sometimes having an ownership interest in a company owned by the client, that could create for you a conflict of interest that means you can't represent the client's, either you can't represent the client's business, or you can't take the ownership interest if you want to be their lawyer. It isn't always the case, but there could be a situation where, because of your personal interest in the equity and the value of the business, you're conflicted out from serving as the lawyer. Probably doesn't impact many lawyers, but it is something that does come up, especially when I get calls from lawyers, like I said, representing new businesses. It's happened a little bit with some cannabis outfits, and I remember it happening several years ago when some of the newer breweries were popping up all over the place, and lawyers, some of those businesses sometimes tend not to have as much cash on hand, so they would offer ownership interest to lawyers in exchange for legal services. And finally, if you need any information on that, let me know and I can email it to you. And finally, question 5. Earlier this year, Attorney General Merrick Garland testified before the United States Senate on the Justice Department's long-running investigation of Ticketmaster. The questions included questions about ticket sales for a famous singer's current tour. As it turns out, the Attorney General is a huge fan of the singer and listens to the songs on the singer's most recent album in the order suggested by his daughter. In an interview with the Wall Street Journal, Attorney General Garland's speech chief writer confirmed that the Attorney General often drops references to the singer in public comments. Indeed, according to another article in Above the Law, when asked if he had managed to secure tickets for the current tour, Attorney General Garland replied, "That is a delicate question. Who is the singer?" Every single person who sent in answers to this week's quiz got this question right, so I don't think we need to spend too much time. Certainly not the full Jeopardy song. That's why I stopped halfway through. The answer was, of course, Taylor Swift. Attorney General Merrick Garland is a noted Swiftie. So that's it for this week. I look forward to doing some more of these early in the morning, sharing my thoughts with you on professional responsibility and legal ethics. Can't think of anything to add, so should probably just end. Thanks for watching and see you soon.